me, Country Wood Girl. This is now the new year and we are now in 2025. And I hope this year is going to be full of really exciting videos bringing to you with the workshop and the barn conversion that we're doing. So it's going to be a really busy year and I hope to bring you guys along with me. But to kick off the year, we're going to start off with a woodworking project and we are going to be trying to make a child's chair. Now this is a great project to start with because this is something you can give to any little baby, child, and it's really easy to make. There's not a lot of components to it. There's literally 4 legs, a headrest or backrest, and a seat. So there's not a lot, and it is all like kind of glued and screwed, so it's really easy. And so this is the shape of the seat that we're going to do, and we're going to get this bit out first because when we route out the joint for our legs, that's going to determine how thick we need to get the legs out. And also, as you've just seen on the camera, the timber that I'm using is all offcuts and it's going to be quite tight getting it out with getting the grain nice and straight for the legs and without any cracks or splits in. Now the reason why I'm using this is because a long time ago I made myself a Sam Maloof inspired rocking chair, and if you haven't seen that I will put the link in here because it's a really cool watch and it is in 3 parts and it's a hand sculpted chair at the end of the day, so it's a really good build. But I kept all the offcuts that I used to build that chair, and out of the offcuts I'd really like to make a child's chair out of it, you know, having a big size chair and a little size chair to go next to it I think would be really funny. But yeah, the offcuts that obviously we've got are a little bit ropey, so we're going to try our best. But if you're building this alongside with this video, try and use nice straight grain timber because that'll be the best kind to use. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to start getting out the seat. Now this is just a simple bit of MDF that I've made to make it look like a seat shape. So all the jigs that I've got for this are pre-made, but I'll just show you them quickly so you can have a go. So literally just make a seat shape that you like the look of. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. As you can see, this isn't fancy, but you could go for a round, you could go for a more rectangle. It's completely up to you. But this is what I've gone with, and so it is going to be a really tight fit getting this out this piece of wood. So I think the best thing to do would be maybe to cut this leg off here and then just plane this lump up as one, and then we'll cut it out on the bandsaw from there. Now if you do like this video, please do hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, share with your family and friends, and let's make this channel grow this year. You know, we all have New Year's resolutions. Well, this would definitely like to be one of mine, that we can push this channel a little bit further. And also, if you did want to support me as a creator, I do now have a website up and running that I'll leave a link in the bio where you can buy small gifts starting at about £10, little Christmas trees that I made this year, which again, never too early to start Christmas shopping for next year because I'm sure this year will absolutely fly in. But there'll also be other little gifts that I'll make along the way and upload onto my own website to sell from there. And so if you would like to support me, that is the best way to doing it. And if you're feeling very generous in this new year, there is also a donation page where you can simply just donate and you won't get anything back in return. But the money that you do send to me goes straight back into making these videos. So please do stick around, enjoy this video, and let's make this year great. this is what we've planed up for the seat. I mean, we didn't have much choice because this was the only bit of the offcuts that was big enough for the seat, and it is very tight. And I was going to go this way around because it fits better, but the grain kind of curves this way, which I think would be nice to keep going with the seat. So if I think we go about there, and this is kind of roughly where my legs are going to come in and be jointed in, so we can actually screw through there because this bit will get wasted away after. So that's what we'll do now. And then we're going to go to the bandsaw and we're going to cut close to your template, but not exactly to it, because you want a little bit to waste away after. And then what you can do, there's two ways of doing this. You could put this in your vise or wherever you want and use a big flush trim cutter and go all the way around. Or you could use a spindle molder, which I'm going to do, which is essentially just a massive version of that. So if you don't have a spindle, you can do this all with a router anyway. But we're going to use a spindle because it's just easier for me and it's already set up, so I might as well. But that's what we're going to do. So as you can see, that's made this flush with the jig, and it's quite a nice finish, but it will need sanded. So we can take this off now. And that is our seat, and at the minute it could go either way. You just need to decide which one you want the top to be. And then I've made this other jig, and this is to route in for your leg joints. Now, don't let this put you off making this project, because this is, again, really simple. What you want to do is you want to get a square piece of ply, MDF, anything. Just use any kind of scrap sheet material, and then you want to just hot glue some blocks on to keep this a nice snug fit. And before I actually did that, what I did was I made centre lines, and then on one I made previously, again, put centre lines on, line that up nicely with your centre lines, and then glue these blocks on. Once you've got them glued on, you want to work out how big you want your legs to be. So whatever thickness you want them to be, draw that on first, and exactly where they want to be. And you can obviously mark to your centres from your centre lines on here. Now, to route them, I'm using a large router with a 12.7mm cutter and a 28mm guide bush. And what that does is this essentially will run off here, and that will be your cutting line. So this actually ends up being 8mm to my cut. From this point to this point is 8mm. So from this point here, where this will be rubbing against, we'll only start cutting 8mm in. So whatever thickness you want your legs to be, you need to make sure you're 8mm wider the whole way around. And you can either use a router to create these, or a bandsaw and hand tools. It doesn't really matter how you create it, as long as they are all the same, ideally all the same, and then you don't have to get each leg out a slightly different thickness. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to put this in here. Like so. We'll turn it round. Like that. And like I said, this cutter now will just go round here and take that waste out. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, leave a comment in the comment section and I'll try and explain it a little better via words. So as you can see, that's our seat out and it is jointed, ready for the legs. So these are like a little template of what I've made. It's a little bit rough, but of what I want the front legs to look like. Yeah, something like that. And then these are going to be the back legs going right up to the backrest. So again, these will be something like that, with this bit sticking right up. So what we want to do is we want to get these out next and get them planed up to the right thickness. And of course we can use this now to get them out exactly to the thickness where it just snugly slots in. Now remember, I'm using really wacky offcuts of a chair that I already made, and so we might actually have to plane up quite a few pieces of this to make sure we can get the legs out. So I've got two here of the back legs, one here, one here. As you can see, it's just going through some splits here, it's just missing them. Again though, it is a little bit risky, so we might get some others out. Like as you can see on this one, the grain is nice and straight along here, so we might be able to get one out along here. When you have wacky timber like this and you can see it almost backing up on itself, that would be called short grain. So if you were to get this thin bit out here, that would become really weak and could actually snap because the grain is really short. So ideally, if you're ever getting out legs with a curve on, you want to try and get your grain as straight as possible to make sure it's as strong as possible for the chair. Especially with it being a child's chair, you are going to have kids climbing on it and using it as a climbing frame eventually when they're too big to actually sit on it. And again, the little front legs, I'm just going to get out of pieces like this, but to get them out of this, I'm probably just going to plane up whole pieces because it's just waste anyway, and what's left could just be cut into turn-in blanks for little Christmas trees and things like that. So nothing is really going to waste, only the bits with major splits in will be. So let's get on and plane them up.
So we've milled the timber out. It is slightly thicker than it needs to be, but I thought I might as well just get them out like this, shape them and sand them down so they're a nice snug fit into the seat that we've already jointed. Now, as you can see, this is actually really, really ropey. So we're going to try our best and just get the legs out of what we've got. So obviously we need 2 back ones, 2 front ones. So I might end up getting some spares out just in case. But you can see this grain is actually going this way, so it's quite helpful that I just about get the length that I need if I was to go there. So we might try cut one here and get some others from somewhere else. And this board here is like a fair buck match. As you can see, they repeat its pattern, so we'll get another here, and that might do for the back legs, and then we'll just get some front legs out as well. Like I say, I might get some spare back legs just in case these do end up having a split in them somewhere. So this is the jig I've made for the back legs, and this is the shape I'm wanting. So you do one side first where it's going to be over width, and then you put it onto this side where it has some stops on. So every one that you do will be exactly the same. And before you take it out after you've spindled it, you've got to square up these end marks to line them back up on your next side. Sometimes when I make a jig like this, I'll actually, once I've shaped one side, is cut them to length, and then you put a stop on so it's a dead stop. But for this one, I'm just going to go by my pencil mark, which is absolutely fine to do. So as you can see, this will just clip in like so, and it can't go anywhere, so it's safe in the machine and your hands are way back. If you didn't have a spindle moulder, again, you can just do something similar with a router and use a router to shape your leg, or you can simply do it by hand, which, I mean, if there's only 2 to do anyway, you might as well just do them by hand, because by the time you've made a jig to shape these, you could have got them done by then. This is if you're making a batch of them, which I often do. When you're making, you know, like 5 or 6, it's obviously then a lot faster just to make one jig and buzz them all through. But if you're just making one, I'd highly recommend just do it by hand, because you're also keeping up hand skills with doing it with a compass plane and whatnot, and it wouldn't take much to do. So this is the jig for the front legs, and this was my template, which was slightly bigger. So I've cut these out as a square block. These were exactly what you see me draw around before. So these are square cuts. This is all square, and it's just the front that's curved. So this will just slot in to here. It's quite a tight fit. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll just draw that curve on, and again just cut slightly off your line on the bandsaw, and we'll spindle that to shape. So what we want to do next is we want to put these legs into here. Now I have sanded these down to the right width. They are quite snug, but that's what you want because you do want to push over with the sander on these before you glue it. But what we want to do is we want to actually put a screw right through, which is going to make our joint even stronger than just gluing it. So to do that, I've literally just gone halfway down of what the seat would be and dead central. And we're going to drill that with a 6mm drill bit, just about 10mm in, and then all the way through with a smaller bit, just enough for a thread of what I'm going to use a lost head, but you can use any kind of screw as long as the head is smaller than 6mm. If it's not, drill this 10mm and you could plug it with a 10mm. But that's what we're going to do now, and then we're going to move on to the back and also get them drilled for a screw to go in as we glue it. So that's them drilled now. Same with these ones. These ones are only just coming through because of the reach on the drill bit. And they are drilled for what these are. They're called lost heads. So they're just like really thin screws with not much of a head on. So it will go into that 6mm hole really easily, and then that can be plugged after. But like I say, if you don't have these, just use normal screws and make this a 10mm hole, because most screw heads will fit into a 10mm hole. But now what you want to do is you want to decide whether you want these square or you want to put the corresponding round on the edge of these legs that will then match up to here. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave these rounded and put the same kind of round on these. But if you don't have that kind of round, or don't want to buy one in, or do it by hand because that might be quite fiddly, you can just cut these square and it will be exactly the same. So when we come to putting a round on the back legs, we want to make sure we draw a line 80mm down. Well, that's what I'm going for, 80mm down. And don't put a round on this top section, because that's where your backrest is going to sit against, and I don't want a round to a flat. I'd rather it look like a really neat joint. So I'm only going to take my rounds to these lines and stop. So we've just put the same round on the seat as well. You could go for bigger if you wanted a bigger round, but I just want to keep the round all the same on everything so it follows through. And now what we want to do is we just want to sand everything up that we've got out. We just want to sand it all up, all the rounds and everything. Just be careful not to round your joints. You want to keep them nice and crisp so it looks like a nice tight joint when you come to glue it. But yeah, get everything sanded and then we'll glue it up. So I've got everything nice and sanded, so it's now time to glue the front legs on. Like I say, these should be a real snug fit. So we'll see how this goes. Sometimes when it's a real snug fit though, it makes the glue go off as you push it in, which is a bit of a problem, because it can then start getting stuck, but we'll see. So that's the back legs glued on as well now, and I did replace this quick cramp that I had for a better cramp. It's just easier getting your clamping block on whilst holding everything with a quick grab clamp. So that's why I had that one on first, but I've just changed it for a slightly better pressured one. But as you can see, them joints have gone up nicely. And when the cramps come off, I'll then put the screws in, because obviously you can't get to them right now. But what we're going to do now is we're going to get the backrest out, which we are hopefully going to get out with the wood that's remaining. I think I'm going to try for this piece first, and I should get quite a nice curved rail out of here. So we'll try for this. So this is our backrest out now. It was a little bit thinner, this one, so I have taken it down a little bit. I just put a shim in that spindle jig and it pushed it into the cutter a little bit more just to get a true curve. And then I just put a bit of a round on this one, which I don't normally do actually, but I think it looks quite nice, and I put a little bit of an angle on the edges too, just something different. But what we can do is we can get this glued on here now, and then we're just going to leave the whole chair overnight to set, and then we can hoss some screws in and get it all sanded up, ready for some oil. So we just need to put our final screws in. Then we just need to plug all our holes that we've created for the screws. Now you can get something called a plug cutter, which is what I'm going to use, and I'm going to use probably a dark timber to put in here. So I'll show you how to do that now. So this is what the cutter is that we're using. It's called a snug plug cutter, and it's a 6mm one, but like I say, you can get 10mm ones if that's what you used. If you use the bigger screw, you can get a 10mm one, and it's by Veritas, but I'm sure there's loads of other brands that you can use that might be cheaper. We're going to be using ebony to get our plugs out of, and hopefully I can get them all out of this blank that I've got. So it's now out of cramp. Everything is plugged, screwed, cleaned up. We've sanded all where the water got or where glue might get. In fact, there's a little bit there I've missed, so I'll show you how to do that. So you should be able to see when you miss, because you'll be able to run your hand over, and wherever it feels ever so slightly rough is where you've not sanded the watermark off. It doesn't take much to get rid of it, so it's a nice, easy finishing job to do. But once you're happy with it, the last thing to do is to oil it. Today, like most projects that I do, I'm using Osmo oil, and this is the protector, and then there's a top coat that goes on top. And I put 1 coat of this protector base coat on, and then I'll put about 2 or 3 top coats on, depending on how it's looking. But once we've got this oiled up, I'll then show you it fully oiled with some final photos, and that'll be the end of the video. But I'm really pleased you did stick right to the end of this video to here, and hopefully right to the very end, because there'll still be a few minutes left. If you did enjoy this video, please do hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and check out all my other videos that I've done in the past. And I'll hope to see you next time, everyone.